My name is Veronica Thiessen. I've been involved with the BC Mennonite Women in Mission for many, many years. Served on the nominating committee, retreat committee, program committee, vice chair, and chairman. And before that, I took my mom to the women's conference, so I've been involved for a long time. Before I begin with, I would like to just relate a story that was stated in the 1929 Maria Marta Verein minutes. Their first two meetings had given them $2 for the offering. They sent these $2 to the Eaton's catalog company, asking them to give the maximum amount of material that these $2 would buy. Eaton sent them $10 worth of material, and the women were ecstatic. They immediately began preparing items for the Missionsausruf, missions auction, and the auction produced $140. They sent this money, or used this money, to help the Mennonite families that were still in Russia. And I thought this story needed mentioning. I think it was just very important. Okay, then how has the composition over the organization changed over the last 20 years? I would just like to first state why the organization formed in the first place. During the annual conference in January 1939, a discussion among some women revealed the desire that a meeting of all the clubs would be a blessing. While sharing their experiences and voicing their problems and pooling their resources, they would benefit from each other and then learn how they, as women, could be encouraged to greater service. The very next month, February 28, 1939, 125 women met at the Yarrow Church. And the individual clubs, which totaled 7 at the time, had joined in one overall women's conference, Frauenkonferenz. The years following, many more women's groups organized and joined the organization. And at one point, there were 37 women's groups with a total of 809 members. And I thought that was just awesome. And in the past years, the organization supported many, many projects. They supported their very own own missionary, Shirley Hildebrand, missionary to Taiwan. They supported a young man in Paraguay from 1951 to 61, Rudy Dick, who was studying to become a medical doctor. They supplied canned fruit and vegetables to the Menno Home, to the Bible School, and dried fruit to CMBC. In 1961, helped purchase and build Camp Squia and provided a lot of kitchen equipment, coffee machine, and etc. And also had a representative on the Camp Squia board who kept the women informed of urgent needs at camp. Supported pastors on sabbatical leave who wanted to continue their studies, and supported a student continuing her studies at Heston College and a young man furthering his studies at AMBS, Associated Mennonite Biblical Seminary. We presented bursaries for many years to 2 young females who were enrolled in a 4-year program at Columbia Bible College. And for MCC, sold thousands and thousands of baby liettes, preparing school kits and health kits, donations of money for digging wells, and sorting and folding clothing at the warehouse, volunteering at the thrift shops, and sewing quilts and tying blankets, which is still continued in some churches. We also supported numerous foreign missions projects in South America, Ukraine, India, Bangladesh, and Africa. And how has this organization changed over the last 20 years? In the last 20 years, the demographics have changed dramatically. many women joined the workforce and are holding full-time jobs outside of the home. It became more and more difficult to fill vacant executive positions. Women's groups were diminishing. The older ones faded away due to age and poor health, and the young ones felt they did not have the time or the energy to spend another night out. And on April the 27th, 1997, at the 58th Annual Inspirational Day, the requirements for membership changed. Before that, women's groups were accepted into the BC Mennonite Women Mission by request. Now the Constitution reads that any woman who is a member or adherent of a Mennonite Church BC church is automatically a member of BC Mennonite Women in Mission. And this came about because a number of churches now had cell groups instead of women's groups, and the change allowed any woman who was willing to participate to serve in the executive or any other committee of BC Mennonite Women in Mission. In 2006, a questionnaire was sent out to all the women's groups and the churches that did not have women's groups, asking them what they would like to see happen with the organization. Of the reports that were returned, some groups did not want to change because they felt needed and fulfilled being involved in women's mission work. The majority, however, preferred to do away with the business part of the meetings and wanted to continue with the Inspirational Day and the Camp Squia Ladies Retreat at Camp Squia. And as long as churches are willing to host the Inspirational Day, it would continue. Now, the hosting church is responsible for planning the program and advertising of the same. Now, I just need to go back to a bit. At the annual business session in February of 2007, a vote was taken, and the majority were in favor of continuing with the Inspirational Day and the Ladies Retreat. After hosting the Canadian Women in Mission annual tea in the beginning of July, held in conjunction with Mennonite Church Canada Assembly here in Abbotsford that year, BC Mennonite Women in Mission met for the last time as a corporate body. The financial books were audited and closed on July the 31st, 2007. In 2010, the name BC Mennonite Women in Mission was changed to Mennonite Church BC Women's Ministry. And I would also like to, if I may, to read an excerpt from an article by Valtruda Gertsen, which appeared in the September 19 issue of the Canadian Mennonite. And it's called A Place to Belong. A place to belong. These few little words became especially important to me as I reflect on a recent experience that helped me to see that such a belonging place had been missing in my own life since we moved and changed churches a few years ago. Due to a friend's serious illness, a group of women from my new home church decided to make a quilt for her. As we sat around that quilt frame, something new to me, for 2 evenings, I realized that it was the fellowship of a ladies' circle that I had been missing. A place of laughter and a cup of coffee are as important as sharing our good, our difficult, and exciting times. It was a time to discover friendships, new and old, while trying to provide some touchable form of comfort for a friend. Wasn't this the reason our mothers and grandmothers met in their clubs, circles, or yes, Frauenverein, to quilt, sew, cook, or bake, providing items for those in need, whether they be next door or far away in a country they might never see? Realizing what was missing in my own life was one thing, but discovering through 2 email conversations shortly after that I had not been the only one who had been touched by these evenings became an unexpected blessing. Both emails expressed a similar yearning for long ago connections around a quilting frame, as well as concern about the widespread loss of connection between women, today's women. It is a discouraging fact, wrote one, that we as a group of women can all attend the same church for years and not so many years and still know so little about one another. Spending time together and would allow us to understand, support, and hold one another accountable, as well as to share our faith with those who know us and then with others. The other echoed similar thoughts, noting that this mutual task of quilting helped us converse in a meaningful but casual way, just as our mothers and grandmothers might have done. This new place to belong may be similar but different from the ladies' groups or circles of the past, but they may better meet the needs of women in our churches today. That's something I've thought about for some time, because I believe that today's women are still looking for what our mothers and grandmothers looked for: fellowship, the opportunity to share our faith and God-given gifts, and to help spread the good news of Jesus Christ. And I'm convinced that giving time and patience and a renewed format, regardless of what activities it may pursue, will reflect what Mennonite Women Canada is hoping to portray in our current purpose statement, which encourages us, like our mothers and grandmothers before us, to nurture our life in Christ, acknowledge and share our gifts, hear and support each other, and serve and minister across the street and around the world. End of the article. I believe that the women's groups knit the churches together and enriched the larger community. We have become too individualistic in the last years and have lost something very, very precious and are missing out on many, many blessings.